Jack Hermansson versus Sean Strickland takes place this weekend in the main event of UFC Fight Night Vegas 47, Hermansson versus Strickland, and I can't wait for this middleweight main event. 5 rounds in the middleweight division, 2 top contenders, number 6 in the world Jack Hermansson versus number 7 in the world Sean Strickland. This is going to be a big fight at middleweight because it's very important right now in the middleweight division, because the winner of this one is going to be one of very few fighters inside the top 5 at middleweight that does not have a loss against Israel Adesanya on their record. There'll be a fresh matchup, so I believe the winner of this one is going to be looking for their title elimination bout next to get them next in line for a title shot against Israel Adesanya, or maybe even Robert Whittaker if he does beat Israel Adesanya the weekend after this one. But on the odds that Adesanya does beat Robert Whittaker, which he is favoured to do so, and I do believe he will do so as well, Whittaker's going to have lost to Israel Adesanya twice. Marvin Vettori has lost to Israel Adesanya twice. If Brunson beats Cannonier, he's lost to Israel Adesanya brutally and embarrassingly in the first round. Paulo Costa got embarrassed by Israel Adesanya. He's at number 4. Unless Cannonier wins, the winner of this matchup might actually have a chance at a title shot next, as crazy as that sounds. The middleweight division's a little bit... it's getting there with some up-and-comers, but, you know, Chris Curtis keeps killing all of them off, so why not match up Chris Curtis with Dricus du Plessis? This video is not about ranting about Chris Curtis destroying middleweights, but let's talk about the main event. Jack Hermansson, Sean Strickland. Winner of this one is probably going to be ranked number 4 in the middleweight division, maybe even number 3 depending on who loses. Maybe Brunson loses and moves down the rankings, and then of course you've got Paulo Costa, who's been inactive and might not even be returning to the middleweight division, so maybe they move him down the rankings and just make the winner of this one number 3 behind Jared Cannonier at number 2 or something like that, because of course Cannonier has that win over Jack Hermansson. So I'm looking forward to this one. It's important, even though it doesn't quite have the same level of name value as some of the other main events that you've seen maybe this year or last year, although recently main events have been pretty garbage. So this is actually a pretty good main event as far as main events go. I believe we've got something like a Jessica Andrade versus Amanda fucking Lemos main event coming up soon, so this one's probably looking like it's going to be one of the good ones this year. Looking forward to it, man. Big fight. I believe that Sean Strickland's going to win this one. It's not just because he's my favourite personality in the UFC, although he is. I just believe that Sean Strickland's got everything it takes to win this fight. Now, the winner of this one is good positioning on a card. Main events, they're going to get a lot of spotlight. They're going to be in a great position moving forward. They're going to get to make their call out at middleweight as well. They're both going to be on win streaks. Jack Hermansson just beat Edmund Shabazian, got back on a win. If he wins this one, he'll be on a 2-fight win streak, and he's actually an interesting style matchup for Israel Adesanya as well. Of course, Sean Strickland on a massive win streak since moving up to middleweight. I believe he's undefeated in the middleweight division, 7-0 or 6-0, something like that. Lost at welterweight to guys like Kamaru Usman. I believe Santiago Ponzinibbio beat him as well. And he also lost to not Santiago Ponzinibbio. Alessio Zaleski dos Santos will kick KO'd him in the welterweight division as well. But other than that, he's been pretty perfect as of moving up to middleweight. He beat Jack Marshman, which isn't, you know, it isn't meaningful in any way, but we got that very cool moment where he said, "Come on, Jack," in the cage with him, and that was a pretty cool moment. I wonder if they'll use that in the promo. That'd be pretty cool, because of course Hermansson's first name is Jack as well, so you could have that crossover there with the promo pieces and the sound bites. But Sean Strickland's looked amazing since moving up to middleweight. Krzysztof Jotko makes people look quite bad typically, and then, like, maybe they edge him out over a decision, or maybe they catch him in the 3rd round like Brad Tavares. Sean Strickland just walked down Jotko, had no respect for him whatsoever, and dismantled him and pieced him apart and destroyed him over 3 rounds. Like, these are very, very impressive performances. I know Brendan Allen just lost to Chris Curtis, but he beat Pinelli Soriano in the middleweight division. So as far as middleweights go, Brendan Allen's a pretty good middleweight, and Sean Strickland again walked him down, landed big shots, not really big shots, but constant shots, maybe 50% power, just sticking them on the chin of Brendan Allen. Got a takedown in that fight as well, ended up on top for a moment, got back up. Brendan Allen started chopping at the legs, and then Sean Strickland basically just said, "Fuck it, I'm finishing him now," put the pressure on, landed his combinations, and put away Brendan Allen in the 2nd round. And since then, The win over Uriah Hall is a big win in his career. I mean, Uriah Hall had a bit of momentum. I know that might have been just from snapping Chris Weidman's leg, which had really nothing to do with him anyway, but even still, he was quite highly ranked, and he's a good middleweight fighter in general as far as middleweights go, so Sean Strickland went out there against him, and I said he would put on a clinic, and he did exactly that against Uriah Hall. He walked him down for 5 rounds, picked him apart on the feet, outstruck him every single round, 50-45 on a decision. I believe there was maybe 1 10-8 scorecard in there as well. I mean, he really did just destroy Uriah Hall on the feet. And I don't believe Jack Hermansson has the same level of stand-up as maybe, I think he maybe has the level of maybe Jotko, but even then, some of the ways that Jack Hermansson throws these strikes works against Jacare, but, you know, it's interesting in other fights, like even against Edmund Shabazian in the first round, he was getting tuned up by Shabazian, and he had no answer. You know what I mean? Like, he did okay against Vettori in certain moments, but Vettori doesn't really have too much finishing power. I mean, Strickland doesn't either, but Vettori's going to naturally get into scraps because he's got a block head, and it's just easy to hit, and he stays in range, and he doesn't mind eating shots because he can't be finished in any way in terms of strikes whatsoever. So, credit to Vettori, but even still, Jack Hermansson doesn't have the best of stand-up, and his grappling is going to be the key to his victory here. So, if you're picking Jack Hermansson to win, how are we picking him to win here? You got to get Sean Strickland to the ground. You got to submit him there or TKO him there from a dominant position. Do I see that happening? I don't see that happening. Sean Strickland has got really, really underrated grappling. I watched a few fights just to get some examples of it. Against Krzysztof Jotko, Jotko shot 1 takedown, and Sean Strickland basically said, "What the fuck you doing? Get off me," essentially. No, that ain't happening right now. You ain't getting this takedown. And Jotko's been able to get takedowns against other opponents before in his career. Other opponents have shot some takedowns on him before as well. Even against Court McGee earlier in his career in 2017, the older Sean Strickland in the welterweight division against better opponents. Court McGee's still winning fights with his grappling now and looking good while doing it. I believe he just won his last fight against a man by the name of Ramiz Brahimaj by out-grappling him for 3 straight rounds and putting on a grappling clinic against him. And Sean Strickland shut down every single one of Court McGee's takedowns. I watched it. 0 for 11 for Court McGee. Now, there were some scrambles where Court McGee would end up on top for a bit as Strickland was getting back up and stuff like that. But Strickland went 3 for 3 on takedowns against Court McGee. And when Court McGee shot on him, it was like an instant muscle memory kicking in. And that's what I'm looking for. With Kevin Holland, when he moved up the middleweight division, and you didn't know quite how good his grappling was when he got to the Brunsons and the Vettoris of the middleweight division that were going to try and take him down, you could see some breadcrumbs of evidence that maybe he is a little bit prone on the ground. But of course, that Jacare Souza KO just sort of removed all ground game holes that he has, because hey, you just KO'd Jacare Souza off of your back. That's pretty cool. And also, he almost had Jacare in a triangle before that as well. So Holland looked pretty good, but when you look back at the Darren Stewart fight, he was taken down and controlled in that fight against Gerald Meerschaert. He was taken down and controlled in that fight against Brendan Allen. He was taken down and he was choked out in that fight by a rear naked choke. So there were some breadcrumbs to maybe signify that Holland is a middleweight prospect coming up that might not have a complete grappling game. It was just hard to focus on and see because Brunson's absolute garbage. So it's like, how could possibly he win with that terrible fucking style? But he managed to win because it's middleweight. But Sean Strickland has shown the contrary to Kevin Holland. He's not got evidence of being out-grappled in his career. I mean, Usman is the only guy ever to out-grapple him. Really. He finished Alex Garcia, dominated him, got taken down because he was going for him in some certain wild exchanges, got back up to his feet, started piecing him up again, finished him in the 3rd round. Other than that, though, no one really does shit to him in the grappling. He did lose to Santiago Ponzinibbio, by the way, along with Alessio Zaleski dos Santos. There's already comments that have been fucking made. It's too late. Moving on. But still, he doesn't really get taken down. And that's pretty good to see, in all honesty. If you're going to pick him against Jack Hermansson, Tom Breeze tried to take him down, and Tom Breeze kind of went back and forth in the grappling with Omari Akhmedov in the middleweight division as well. Tom Breeze tried to take him down, and Strickland said, "No, fuck you. You're not getting me down." Instantly shrugs him off like it's nothing. It's like this weird, other than against Khabib, Gaethje-ish takedown defense level, where it's just so effortless get the fuck off me kind of situation. I like that I see that from him. Jack Hermansson, although having a wrestling base and a jiu-jitsu picking up afterwards, his jiu-jitsu seems to be better than his wrestling. His wrestling has always been a bit of a problem. He struggles at times to get people to the ground and keep them there. He did it to Edmund Shabazian, but Shabazian always slows down as the fight goes on, and Hermansson had to wait until the second round and the third round before he could effectively get down Edmund Shabazian. I just think Strickland's got this one in the bag. Even against Usman, who is the only guy to out-grapple him. Usman went 25% takedown rate. 2 out of 8. 6 of them stuffed by Sean Strickland. And even the ones that Usman got, Strickland was like up on one knee against a cage, trying to work his way back up to his feet, but Usman was there just stomping on him and kneeing him in the fight. You know, old school Usman style. But Usman also dropped him in that fight, shattered his orbital bone, but still Strickland lasted till the bell, got the 30-27 scorecard against him. Some scorecards 30-26 because he was being controlled against a cage for quite some time. But I just don't think Jack Hermansson has that level of grappling, and now you've got a bigger Sean Strickland, built himself up into the middleweight division, got all of the momentum in the world, has complete confidence in his grappling. He was just competing in a grappling tournament against grapplers. He gave up his neck intentionally at the end and let the guy choke him out essentially or something like that. But other than that, he was doing pretty good defensively in that one, so he's been working on his grappling outside of the cage, which I like to see. And I just don't believe that Hermansson's going to be able to get this one to the ground. And if it stays on the feet, Strickland's effective. His striking defense is very good on the feet, and people don't give him much credit for that, although he does look a bit goofy sometimes because he's not doing Matrix level stuff all of the time. He's just simply jabbing people and right-handing and 1-1-2, 1-1-2, lead back fist, 1-1-2. Very weird combinations that he throws with that lead back fist that he seems to constantly throw in there now and again. But I'm thinking Jack Hermansson kind of just wings hooks. Like, he doesn't really have straight punches. You rarely see a jab from Jack Hermansson. You rarely see a straight right hand. I don't think I've ever seen him throw one at all ever in his career. Maybe a jab here and there, but like typically it's like rabid hooks with his hands, like cuffing hooks where they're almost not even landing with the knuckle. They're landing with like the front knuckles, which is why Vettori had all of those, like he'd been in a fight with a fucking feral cat by the end of the fight. He had all those slice marks over his face because Jack Hermansson, the way he punches, he wasn't catching him like full knuckle. He was like slicing him with the front knuckles, just cuffing him with shots. And I think with all of those looping, cuffing hooks, Strickland's real good at rearing his head back and sticking a jab in there. I think it's going to be very effective against Hermansson. Maybe Hermansson could get him leaning back and then shoot a takedown, but even still, I don't think Strickland's going to be lost on the ground. I've talked about the rumours before. Chris Curtis says Strickland and Chimaev go back and forth in grappling non-stop against each other. Bisping says the same thing. He says Strickland's ground game is the best part of his game. He just likes to strike because he's a bit weird. And that's what he likes to do, because Strickland's a bit of a psychopath. And then it's just that there's all this evidence Chimaev trains with Hermansson, but chooses himself to get better grappling training by flying across the Atlantic Ocean to train with Sean Strickland to develop his grappling skill. If Jack Hermansson's so great at grappling in comparison to Sean Strickland, why would you leave to fly to Sean Strickland's gym to train with him? If Hermansson's so much better, why bother going to see Sean Strickland and training some grappling? That makes no sense. So maybe Strickland's better, which is why Chimaev goes from Hermansson, who he could call into his gym and help him out any time, to go in against Sean Strickland across the fucking Atlantic Ocean instead. I think that means that Chimaev in his mind sees good work with Sean Strickland, and so do people like Magomed Ankalaev, who train with Sean Strickland on a regular basis. And Strickland's got great middleweight sparring partners in Marvin Vettori and people like that. Like, he's got good work all around him, Strickland, and that's one thing I really like about him as well. I think his grappling defense is going to be good here. He's got a strong base. He always keeps his hips square. He's always kind of got his hands in weird positions, so I think he can really easily... It's not like he throws anything too wild, you know what I mean? So his hands are in like weird positions, but they're also convenient positions for stuffing takedowns. They're either right by his chin, or they're little sort of like hanging down towards his chest area and stuff like that, and he'll twitch a couple of times and do kind of like a semi-Philly shell or something like that, but I like it from Strickland. It's not like he throws head kicks that could get caught and maybe he gets taken down from them. Like, not many crazy kicks in general that he throws. He doesn't really throw like crazy punches where he overthrows his shot with a big hook. He'll just stick it on you, pressure you, move forward. Maybe Hermansson could have success with the leg kicks. He does have some leg kicks in his game, but he doesn't throw them very often. He like starts with about 3 or 4 really good inside leg kicks and he completely abandons them afterwards. And I think that Sean Strickland, in that Uriah Hall fight, Hall was chopping at the legs early, trying to land a couple of good leg kicks. Strickland checked a leg kick really badly in round 2 and Hall completely abandoned leg kicks until round 5. And the commentary were even saying, why only leg kicking in round 5? And I was thinking it's because Sean Strickland fucking checked that kick in round 2 and Uriah Hall knows what happened to Weidman's leg when Uriah Hall checked a kick. So I think that Strickland's got good defensive work on the leg kicks. I think he can defend them well. He's got a very good pressure-heavy style. Hermansson does oftentimes shell up. Like, he doesn't really dip his head and move and make people miss. He'll shell up and sort of take punishment. I don't think that's good against Strickland's style. Maybe if you've got a power puncher, you can shell up, take a big shot, and then try and dish out some volume back at them. But with Strickland, he's just going to be jabbing you 5 times while you're shelled up, trying to avoid the punishment. And he's got great cardio over 5 rounds. And I think he's going to get this one done, in all honesty. And I want him to win as well because he's a great personality to have. And I think his storyline's amazing. He's on a 5-fight win streak right now in his career. They said 6 on the promo. I guess that's incorrect. 5 fights in a row in the middleweight division. Maybe he had 1 middleweight bout earlier in his career that makes it 6-0 or something like that. But we'll see if he can improve his record streak to 6 wins in a row here against Jack Hermansson. I believe that he can, and I believe he's going to, just by sticking a jab, walking down Hermansson. And he just seems to have this thing about him where Uriah Hall's a pussy. You know what I mean? Like, he's going to be worried about certain things in MMA fights. Strickland wants to die, I feel like. So there's no fear in him, like, out there. Like, you could put, like, he trains with Ngannou, he trains with Johnny Walker. Like, it's, I don't think he at all fears the repercussions of losing. And when you have fighters like that, they do very, very well because they just fight how they're supposed to fight and they're not jittery and worried about everything. Oh no, better not let this happen to me. Strickland completely zones out of it, goes into like Deadeye mode, and then just walks forward and just fucking does his fucking work. Completely blank-faced. I like the focus levels. I think he can mix in maybe a few takedowns himself, push Hermansson up against a cage a couple of times just to feel the strength early on, know what he's getting himself into. But I think he's just going to tune up Hermansson for 5 rounds. I think Hermansson's going to land some of his own great shots. I just think it's going to be not enough every single round. And I think Sean Strickland's going to pick him apart to unanimous decision victory. 5 rounds to 0, I'll say. No. Yep, I'll say it. 5 rounds to 0, 50-45 Sean Strickland, picks apart Jack Hermansson for 5 rounds. Hermansson's tough, but he takes too much of a beating sometimes before he gets going. And when you take shots off Strickland, there's damage on your face, okay? Some people can get hit loads of times in fights, and their face is completely fine against their opponent for whatever reason. That opponent might hit harder than Sean Strickland, but Sean Strickland, I believe he has very big hands or very sharp knuckles, because he digs them shots in people's eyes and orbitals start breaking. Eyes start swelling up. I mean, Uriah Hall's face after that fight, I've never seen a face like that on Uriah Hall for a while. So he really does sting you with those shots. And I don't think Jack Hermansson, who had his orbital broken against Marvin Vettori, by the way, is going to be confident taking those peppering strikes non-stop right in the eye socket over and over again. And I think it's going to backfire on him. But if he wins this one, good for him. Call out Israel Adesanya, I guess. But I think Sean Strickland's got this one in the bag. I'm rooting for the psychopath. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. This should be a good one. And, yeah, let me know what you think about my prediction in the comments below. Good fight, though, man. Good fight. Not the best of cards, but I actually like the card. Maybe it's because they've trained us to not care as much about the cards because they put on so many bad ones at the end of 2021 that we kind of, like, are reprogrammed to be more appreciative of some of these worse cards. But it's not got many big names on the card, but the matchups that are there are really fun. Soriano Maximov, Rakhmonov Harris is a great fight. Alvey Hawes is an interesting fight. Tresean Gore, Brian Battle's an amazing fight as well. Miles Johns, John Castaneda, great fight. Dawodu Trezano. There's a lot of sneaky fights on the card that are really, really cool. So I'm looking forward to it this weekend. Like and subscribe. Click that button up there. Toodle pip. I'll see you later. Goodbye.